Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. A couple of weeks ago we looked at the drivers who had the best record for Minardi. Now let's take a look at the worst. The pugs amongst the wolves. The ones that let the side down. Minardi had quite a few to choose from, given that they usually took on pay drivers, who either had no real experience or no real talent, usually both, but had money and fancied a go. So let's look at the 10 worst Minardi drivers ever. Leave your thoughts down below and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's start climbing to 500.
Welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport.
Number 10, Stefan Sarrazin. I've talked about the versatile Frenchman before, but his one and only appearance for Minardi did not go to plan. Replacing Luca Badoer, who had broken his hand in a testing accident, Sarrazin managed to qualify a decent for Minardi 18th and ahead of teammate Marc Genet, but then his throttle stuck open and Sarrazin had a scary crash on lap 31. Number 9, Paolo Barilla. Barilla had previously raced for Minardi in the European Formula 2 Championship between 1981 and 1983 and had since won the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1985, racing a Newman Jost Racing Porsche 956B. So signing him must have seemed like a golden idea. Paolo Barilla was slow and failed to qualify 6 times in 1990, before dropping out with 2 rounds left, retiring from motorsport and concentrating on his hugely successful pasta business. Number 8, Tarso Marques. The Brazilian had 3 bites of the cherry in Formula 1 with Minardi, and I think it says a lot that no other team would touch him. He stepped in for 2 races for Giancarlo Fisichella in 1996 for the South American rounds, but he spun off on his debut and crashed into Martin Brundle in Argentina, and Fisichella resumed thereafter. Marques came back for the second half of 1997 and still retired from a lot of races, before his final go in 2001. He had the team's best finishes of the year, but money was short and he was replaced by Alex Yoong. More on him in a moment. Maybe Tarso Marques wasn't the absolute dirt worst, but he didn't have to crash a lot. Number 7, Alex Yoong. I just mentioned this chap. The Malaysian replaced Tarso Marques partway through 2001 and would remain for 2002. He wasn't very good. The last Minardi driver ever to fail to qualify for a race, which he did 3 times. At the time, Yoong was very young, just 25, and had very little experience with only a few seasons of British Formula 3, F3000 and Formula Nippon under his belt and no real results of note. His best finish was a 7th in Australia, only 8 cars finished. Since leaving F1, Alex Yoong has rebuilt his career, winning in A1 GP and doing okay in various GT races. His Formula 1 career was best forgotten. Number 6, Gianmaria Bruni. Again, this might be a case of too much too young, but Bruni was only 23 when he debuted in Formula 1 in 2004 and had no real experience of note. Apparently, third place in the Euro 3000 series behind Augusto Farfus and Fabrizio Del Monte is a good enough reason to get a Minardi drive. Fabrizio Del Monte, who was also a Minardi test driver by the way. Bruni did about as well as can be expected, put in some okay performances but finished no higher than 14th. Retired from 8 races and was gone for Minardi's final year in 2005. Number 5, Adrian Campos. Going back to 1987 and Minardi were a very different team. They hadn't yet scored a point in Formula 1 and Adrian Campos only got to the end of 2 of his 21 races. Mostly due to the unreliability of the Minardi car, but Campos wasn't very quick even by the car's standards. In 1987 he was outpaced by teammate Alessandro Zanardi at pretty much every race and Luis Perez Sala in 1988 before Campos was replaced by Martini after just 5 races that season. The race after Campos was replaced, Minardi scored their first point in Formula 1. I think that says it all. Number 4, Jean-Marc Gounon. Not much to say about Jean-Marc Gounon's brief time at Minardi. Gounon had shown some talent in French F3 and International F3000, but in his 2 starts for Minardi in 1993, he withdrew from one after not being able to cope physically with the challenges of Formula 1 and spun out of the other. Not to worry, he'd get another drive in 1994 with Simtech, To be fair, Jean-Marc Gounon was brought in on short notice. He wasn't quick, but this was a huge misuse of his talent. And if he had held out for a proper preparation time with a better team, could have had a successful F1 career. Sadly, it was not to be. Number 3, Anthony Davidson. The young Brit only had 2 races for Minardi in 2002, standing in for Alex Yoong, who was sidelined for the reasons we discussed earlier. Davidson's pace wasn't bad, but he crashed out of both races, so not great. He'd be back with Super Aguri in a few years, but his F1 career was way too short. Probably because of his time at Minardi. Number 2, Giovanni Lavaggi. Lavaggi was 36 when he debuted in Formula 1 with Pacific in 1994, failing to finish 4 races. So of course Minardi signed him, because he had money. Certainly not for his talent. His career is pretty empty. He had a season in International F3000 in 1991. He failed to qualify for all but 2 races. And with Minardi in Formula 1, he failed to qualify for 3 of his 6 races. And he was slow. He qualified last for every race he managed to qualify for, and was always a second off teammate Pedro Lamy. He didn't do much after Minardi, but Lavaggi, an Italian nobleman no less, was an awful driver. Only one had a worse time with Minardi. Number 1, Alessandro Zanardi. This isn't fair because Zanardi is a very good driver who has accomplished a hell of a lot in motorsport, but he was not ready for the disaster that was his Minardi career in 1992. 3 races, 2 of which he failed to qualify for, and the other he broke down on lap 1 with a gearbox issue. It doesn't get much worse than that. So that is the list of the worst Minardi drivers ever. Some of the worst Formula 1 has ever seen on that list. But I really miss Minardi. It's strange for a team that achieved so little to have such a large fan base, but Minardi had fans all over the world. Formula 1 is an emptier grid without them. Leave your thoughts down below. Do you agree with my selection, or is there someone else who should be on this list? Check out my other videos and subscribe to the channel. Plenty of videos coming on this special week. Like and share the video. Thank you for watching and have a good one.